All right, I'm not sure why this first page is blurry, but I can still work out some stuff and you guys can see, and then we can move on to the next page. What happens when I write? It's not blurry, so it's fine. Okay, like I said, you guys are going to be given formulas. I'll go over some of the formulas that are going to be given so you guys are aware. There's 8 questions total. There are 8 questions, but in each question, if you have 2 triangles, that's a possibility of 5 or 6 answers. So there's not just 8 answers on the test. So make sure you guys are aware of that. You're going to have 8 total questions. So write this down. There's 8 total. Of those 8, you'll have 2 law of sines. You'll be given the law of sines. You'll have 1 law of cosines. You'll be given the law of cosine. 2 area. You'll be given both area formulas. All right, so that's 5. You're going to have a word problem. We'll talk about that in a second. And then you're going to have 1 linear speed, which we'll talk about as well. I'm going to give you the formula. And you will have 1 that you're given, like given cotangent theta, find something else, like 1 from your quiz. So I'm going to go over an example of everything. Make sure you guys are aware of what's going on. Again, you're going to be given the law of cosines, law of sines, both area, linear speed. Those will be given to you on a formula sheet. You guys will be able to use your calculator.
What's that last one?
Like given cotangent is -1/2, find secant or something.
Oh.
We're going to go over one of those. Now, guys, possibility of no triangle, 1 triangle, 2 triangles, right? That is a possibility for our law of sines problems. So make sure if you get an error in your calculator, what does that tell you? No triangle. We're going to do an example here where we have 1 triangle. We'll do an example where we have no triangle. No, we'll do an example where we have 2 because that's a little harder to do. If I look here at number 1, I'm going to rewrite the problem because I know it's blurry. But if we look at number 1 here, A is 9, B is 7, and angle A is 108 degrees. Okay, so your problem is going to say, using the law of sines, determine if there is 1 triangle, 2 triangles, or no triangles, and solve. That means find everything that's missing. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw a triangle. A, B, and C. I know that angle A is 108 degrees. I know that side A is 9, and I know the side across from B is 7. Does everybody understand that? So I am looking to find B, C, and little c. Yep.
You have to assume that there's going to be 2 triangles.
Always assume there's going to be 2. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to assume there's 2 triangles. So triangle 1, triangle 2. What is given? Angle A. So angle A is given. That means it would be in both triangles. So angle A is 108 degrees. So I have to find B, C, and little c. B, C, and little c. All right, so how do I find angle B? And why am I solving for B first? Because I have a side, right? I don't have anything for C. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my law of sines because I have a proportion of a side length and its angle measure. And I'm going to say sine 108 over 9 equals sine what? B over 7. Okay, set that up. How do we solve this? Cross multiply. So 7 times the sine of 108 equals 9 times the sine of B, correct? Do what to both sides? Divide by 9. So you get the sine of B equals, in our calculators, when we do this, we get like 0.73971. Something like that, right? Is that the angle measure? No. So we hit second sine. Sine -1 comes up, and I get that the measure of angle B is about 48 degrees, correct? That's what you guys came up with? So I come up here and I say, okay, I find out that B is 48 degrees. Now at this point, this is where you should see, let me see if there's a second triangle. We take the angle that we found and we find the what? Supplement, good. 180 minus 48. What does 180 minus 48 give you? 132. Okay. We don't know yet if there's a second triangle. Let's finish the angles in the first triangle. I take 108 and 48, and I do what? 108 and 48 gives me 156. So 180 minus 156 gives me, yep, 24 degrees. Good. Then I take A and B over here. 108, I'm sorry, plus 132 gives me 240. Guys, what do you notice about that number? It's bigger than 180. If I say 180 minus, I get a negative number. So is there a second triangle here? This is where you guys would go, nope, no second triangle. Now, we're still missing a piece, right? We're still missing little c. So we're going to use our law of sines again. I'm just going to go back to my original. Sine 108 over 9 equals, we found c was 24, 24, so sine 24 over little c. And then what do we do? Cross multiply. 9 times the sine of 24 equals little c times sine 108. Divide by sine 108. And I get little c is about how long? 3.849, something like that. 3.849. And what do the directions say? Round to the nearest whole number. So little c is about 4. So your answer here that I would be looking for is everything in triangle 1. I'd also be looking for you to cross out and say, oh, there's not 2 triangles. Yes, sir.
What happens if you just...
Ah! Let's skip to 6. All right, we're still using the law of sines. Remember, your problem will say, using the law of sines. When we have the law of sines problems, what do we need to assume that there is? There's assume that there's 2 triangles. All of this, guys, worked out, is posted in modules with little notes and stuff like that. So let's assume there's 2 triangles. First thing I'm going to do is say, all right, I have A, I have B, and I have C. How big is angle B? 61 degrees. How long is the side across from B? 14. And how long is the side across from A? 15. So we are going to assume that there's 2 triangles. Triangle 1, triangle 2. They gave us A, they did give us, not give us A, so A, angle B they gave us is 61. Actually, I'm going to write it like this. I always write the given one first. So angle B is 61. Angle B is 61 degrees here. Make sure you have your degree sign. So I need to find angle A, angle C, and side C, right? So we're looking for angle A over here. Looking for angle C over here, if there is one, and then little c on both sides, correct? Okay, and I got a new Apple Pencil, so my writing will be better.
It always has to be in the order, like A, B, C. So, what if you get, like...
All right, so what do we know? What do we know for a fact, for a given that we can use as our law of sines?
You have sine B.
I have sine of B, so sine of 61 over 14, right? Equals, what can I find?
Sine A.
Sine of A over 15. So sine A over 15. How do we do this? Cross multiply. So 14 times the sine of A equals 15 times the sine of 61. Divide both sides by 14. And I get that the sine of A is how much? 69.568. 69.568. Right? When I do sine -1. So that rounds to angle A is about 70 degrees. So when I come up here, I say, okay, angle A is 70 degrees. Now, guys, this is where you have to say, ooh, let me make sure, let me check, let me see if there is a second triangle present. So how do you find that? We take the first angle that we find and find the what? Thank you. We find the supplement. Very good. So I'm going to say 180 minus 70. What is 180 minus 70? 110. Okay. Now at this point, you guys can finish solving the second triangle, finish the first. I always like to go back to the first and just look. Add A and B. What is 61 plus 70? What is it?
Which one's
131. So I'm going to have 180 minus 131. How many degrees are left over for my angle C? 49. Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to come over here. What do I do to see if there's a second triangle present?
You add one and you subtract.
You add those two as well. Good. What's 110 plus 61? 171. That's close to 180, isn't it? But is it less than 180? Yes. So this is just a tiny angle. Our first example we did when we added those two together, it was more than 180. So we crossed it out and said, oh, wait a second, there's not a second triangle. But here, I see there's 9 degrees left over, correct? So this little angle over here is 9 degrees. How many triangles do we have present here, guys? There's 2. So I have to find side C in both triangles. So I'm going to use the original. And this is why it's good, Joseph, to use the original. But I'm going to use the original and say, okay, sine 61 over 14 equals sine 49 over C. And then over here, I'm going to say sine 61 over 14 equals the sine of 9 over C. Since use the same, it's better to use the given. You'll be more exact with your answer. So when we cross multiply here, we have 14 times the sine of 49 equals C times the sine of 61. Divide both sides by sine 61. And what do we get? How long is C? About 12.08. So C is about what? 12. What do we round to? 12, 1 decimal place. So 12. If you had to round 1 decimal place, 12.1. Whatever it says to do. Excuse me? Yeah, just you have to do whatever the directions say tomorrow. So then here, same thing. 14 times the sine of 9 equals C times the sine of 61. Divide by sine 61. And I get C is about how much on this side? I got 1.91. So 2.504. So you could leave it depending on how they round. They say 2.5. If you round to the nearest whole number, it'd be 3, right? But guys, in this case, this is a long problem. How many triangles do I have here? I have 2. So this, you guys look, you found 6 answers in this question. So if you have 2 triangles, you're going to have 6 answers that you're going to have. So make sure that you guys complete that. Questions? Everybody all right? Okay, we're going to do law of cosines then. The problem will say using law of cosines. I'm going to do both of these examples because both of them are a little different. You will be given the law of cosines formula. You'll be given that formula. And also, we need to remember, guys, when you are finding angles and measures using the law of cosines, what do you have to find first? You have to find the longest side of the biggest angle. You have to. In order for our little trick at the end, so our second step, we can use law of sines. So, draw your triangle, A, B, and C. Angle A is 42 degrees. Angle B, we don't know, but we know that side B is 12. Angle C, we don't know, but we know that side C is 19. Even if I didn't tell you guys, using the law of cosines, would you be able to use the law of sines to solve here? No, because we need to find side A, angle B, and angle C. Now, you guys can't determine right now which side the biggest one is. You can't determine that right now, and that's okay. But in order to use the law of sines, what do we have to find first? We have to find A, right? So go ahead and do that. When you're given 2 sides and an angle, just find the missing side. It's when you're given 3 sides that you have to find the biggest angle first. So using the formulas, I'm going to say, okay, I have to find B, I have to find C, and I have to find little a first. So using the formulas, I'm going to use the one that says A squared equals the other 2 sides. So 19 squared plus 12 squared minus 2 times 19 times 12 times the cosine of the angle across from the side you're looking for. At that point, guys, that's all I need to see for you as far as work is concerned. You can do all of this in your calculator. And when you do all of it in your calculator, what do you guys get? A squared equals what? I got 166.1259. Is that the side we're looking for? No, what do I have to do? Square root. So side A is about how long? 12.9. So 13. I kept mine at 12.9, so that's fine. Again, just round to whatever they say. I found A was 12.9. Once we find A is 12.9, guys, what can I do now? I can use the law of sines because I now have an angle measure and its corresponding side. So I'm going to say sine of A, so sine 42 over, I'm using 12.9. If you use 13, that's fine. Just tomorrow, round to where it says to. And then what angle are we going to find? Okay, you want to find B? That's fine. So sine B over what? 12, okay. So cross multiply, you get 12.9 or 13, whatever you guys put, times the sine of B equals 12 times sine 42. Divide by 12.9. And you get sine B equals 0.62244. That's not what I want, though. I want second sine because I'm finding the angle measure of B. So second sine, second answer. And I get 38.49. So about how much? About 39 degrees. I think they said to round to the nearest whole number. So I found out that angle B was about 39 degrees. Do you guys agree with that? Everybody okay? Now, I have angle A and I have B. Do I have to use the law of sines or law of cosines to find the last angle? No. What can I do? I can add and subtract. If I add 42 plus 39, what do I get? 81. And then I say 180, God bless you, minus 81, and that gives me 99 degrees. Sorry about that. I don't know what just happened. So I get 99 degrees. So here are my three answers. So that one law of cosines problem is not just one answer. It's how many? It's three. Yeah. Would the whole problem be wrong? If you got the middle angle wrong, then yes, because you would add 2 and subtract from 180. If you just found 2 of them and then subtract from 180 and did the math wrong, you'd just get one of them wrong. Yeah.
These questions.
All right, another law of cosines problem, and this one is a little different. And again, it's going to tell you on your problem using law of cosines. But look at this. We have x, y, and z. Again, doesn't matter how you write it, just as long as you keep angles across from sides. You put it as a, b, and c. That's fine. So across from x is 5, across from y is 18, and across from z is 14. Even if you guys tried to use the law of sines in this problem, you couldn't. Why not? You don't know anything about the angles. So we have to find all three of the angles. So again, we're going to have three answers to this problem. I'm going to have measure of angle x, measure of angle y, and the measure of angle z. What do I have to find first? I have to find the longest side, the biggest angle across from the longest side. So I have to find angle y first. However you name it, that's fine. Just make sure that you use the correct numbers. So you're going to have to use the formula. You're going to have to use the formula where the longest side is on the left side of the equal sign. Yeah, what's up? Yeah, because it doesn't make the calculations correct. You have to find first. Yeah, so I have 18 squared equals, then you have the other two sides squared, minus 2 times 14 times 5 times the cosine of whatever you're looking for. In this case, I named it y. If you named it b, whatever. Just make sure your numbers are correct. Now, guys, the whole right side of your problem, you cannot do in the calculator because this is a variable. So you have to do this in parts. What is 18 squared? 324 equals, what's 14 squared? 196 plus 25 minus, what's 2 times 14 times 5? 140. And I have cosine y. I can add these two together. What's 196 and 25? 221, okay. Minus 140 cosine y. What do I have to do with the 221? I have to subtract it now. So I'm going to subtract 221 from both sides. So what's 324 minus 221? So I get 103 equals negative 140 cosine y. Now what? Yes, divide by negative 140. Good. So I get the cosine of y is, what's 103 divided by negative 140? Negative 0.7357. Now, guys, we've been doing the law of sines. I know that, but be careful. You're going to hit second cosine in your calculator, then second answer. And I get that angle y is about how big? 137.36. So we'll say 137 degrees. So I come up here and I say angle y is about 137 degrees. All right, so now that I have that angle y is 137, what can I use to solve? Law of what? Law of sines. So I'm going to say sine 137 over 18 equals what? You want to find c? So sine of c over, or not c, what letter would that be for me? Okay, so sine of z over 14. Cross multiply, so you have 14 times the sine of 137 equals 18 times the sine of z. Divide both sides by 18. So sine equals 0.5304. We're going to hit second sine in our calculator. Second answer. And you get about 32 degrees. So angle Z is about 32 degrees. So come over here and angle Z is about 32 degrees. How do I find the measure of angle X? Add those two together. So 137 plus 32 equals 169. So 180 minus 169, what'd you guys get? About 11 degrees. And there's your triangle. Questions? Yeah. We did law of sines with two triangles. We did law of sines with one triangle. If we find using law of sines and we get error, that's no triangle. We did law of cosines with two sides and an angle. We did law of cosines with all three sides. Every problem will have a word problem on it. All right, every test, every version. Guys, what are we talking about? What shapes are we talking about? Triangles, right? So as soon as you see a word problem, I'm not going to work this one all out. I worked it out on your review. Draw a triangle. Don't get caught up with, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. Go ahead and label it ABC. How many distances did they give you? Did they give you any side lengths? No. Did they give you any angle measures? No, they just gave you what? Sides. Does it matter where you put them? No. I'm going to just say this is 448. I'm going to say this is 1583. And I'm going to say this is 1667. They ask you how big the angles are. The reason it doesn't matter is because they're not asking for one specific, like how big of an angle was formed when she flew from Phoenix to Atlanta to Columbus or whatever. They're asking you for all three of the angles. What is the major thing you have to do here? You have to find what? I'm finding angles. So what do I need to find first? I have to find the biggest. Can't add any angles up because I don't know any of them. I have to find the biggest angle first. According to my picture, what's the biggest angle? B. All right, the way you set yours up, yours may not be the letter B. Thank you. Yours may not be the letter B, but as long as you associate the longest side with the biggest angle, you're good to go. Once you find that, what happens? Then what do we use? You find one of the sides, then use law of cosines, right, to find that. Then once you find an angle and its corresponding side, use law of sines, then you add and subtract. Same exact thing. If they give you enough information when you draw your triangle that you have an angle and the side across from it, then use the law of sines. The word problem is not going to tell you exactly how to do it, so just be careful with that. All right, again, I have all of this worked out and posted, so you guys can look at it. I'm just going to set this up so you can see it, and then you guys can check your answers. But when they tell you to find the area using Heron's formula, guys, I'm going to give you Heron's formula. So what I need to see from you is, okay, how do you find S? Well, you add all three sides. So you would tell me 9 plus 11 plus 16 divided by 2. When I write this, guys, what has to happen with the numerator? I have to add the numerator together first. Either do it together, hit enter, then divide it by 2, or tell your calculator, hey, put it in parentheses so this adds first, then divide. Once you find this value, which happens to be what, 18? You then set up your problem, and you have 18 here, and then you subtract each side. 18 minus 9, 18 minus 11, 18 minus 16, and you evaluate that in your calculator. And you round to whatever it says to do. All right, again, this is posted. You're finding area, so you have to have yards, centimeters, meters squared. Make sure you have that, please, when you simplify. All right, this area formula. Guys, this area formula here is also 1/2 A times B times the sine of C. Means the same thing. Both of those things mean the same thing. This is two sides, and the angle where? The angle where?
In the middle.
In the middle, included. It'll probably say a triangular building, a triangular park, blah, 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 blah. You take the two sides that they give you, area equals, you'd say 42 times 26 times the sine of 35, and divide that by 2. And again, feet squared, yards squared, meters squared. If you like the formula the other way, 1/2 times 26 times 42 times the sine of 35. These two things are the exact same thing. Dividing something by 2 is the same as multiplying by 1/2. Everybody understand? All right, this down here, I'm going to do a problem with you from one of your quizzes, and then I'll give you guys your quizzes back here. You have to know these things. We've been working on this for a while. This was on your quiz. From your quiz, this is the only thing that's on the test. But you have to know the ratios. You have to know what all students take calculus. The signs of the trig functions, depending upon what coordinate they're in. So if you have a problem, I just had one written down. So you have a problem like this. Tangent of theta equals -2/5. And then they tell you that secant of theta is greater than 0. All right, think about this, guys. These are not right triangles in the first quadrant where it's opposite over adjacent or anything like that. This is when we're dealing with our x value, our y value, and our r value. All of these relationships, these ratios, you guys need to know. Sine is y over r, x is cosine over r, that sort of thing. What do you know that r, the value of r, is always what?
Positive.
Always positive. That's a huge thing to remember. A lot of you on your quiz, you got the numbers right, but your signs were wrong because you were in the wrong quadrant. What this information tells you is super important. Remember this, all students take calculus. If tangent is -2/5, which can I cross off? What two quadrants can I cross off? I can cross off A because everything in A is positive. What else can I cross off? Where is tangent positive? Where is tangent positive? In the T quadrant. So I know it's not either of those two. So now I can come over here and say secant is greater than 0. Secant goes with cosine, right? What does greater than 0 mean?
That confuses me. Like, the S.
Well, just think, I always say if it's a reciprocal function, I always write underneath it what the regular one is. So secant goes with cosine. So where is cosine greater than 0? That means positive. And what's left over here, where is cosine positive? Right here, correct? So your angle is in this quadrant. Why does that matter? What are the signs of x and y in this quadrant? If I had a point right there, x is positive and y is, so I know that my x is a positive number, whatever it is, and y is a negative number, whatever it is. That's why that's important. You guys can all figure out what x, y, and r are algebraically. I know you can. Tangent is y over x, correct? So I know my y value is 2, -2, and my x value is 5. If this was in a different quadrant, the signs would be different. The numbers aren't, but the signs would be different. So how do we find our r value? X squared plus y squared equals r squared. So 5 squared plus -2 squared equals r squared. 25 plus 4 equals r squared. So r is the square root of 29. Now you have all the information you need to find all the stuff. Say I asked you, what does this one ask for? Cosecant of theta. Well, some of you are like, oh my gosh, cosecant. What is cosecant the reciprocal of? Sine. So think about that. Sine is y over r. So what's cosecant? R over y. What's your r value? Square root 29. What's your y value? -2. There's your answer. This first part of figuring out what quadrant, that's the most important. Because if you have +5, +2, okay, your algebra is right, but you're in the wrong quadrant, so your signs are going to be wrong. Yeah. The second part, like this value here.
Yeah.
What do you mean, what do you not get by it? They're telling you that whatever angle this is, that the secant of the angle and the cosine are they're greater than 0. That means they're positive. Like if they told you that tangent of theta is negative or less than 0, that means tangent's negative. That means it can't be in the first quadrant or the third quadrant.
But I don't get like what it has to do with like I don't know what we're looking for when I see that.
You're trying to find this cosecant of the angle. In order to find that value, you have to figure out where on your coordinate plane the angle is. Is it in quadrant 1? Is it in 2? Is it in 3? Or is it 4?
How do you know it's cosecant and not like cotangent?
Because the problem asked in this problem that I gave, it just said find cosecant of theta. I just wrote a problem from one of the quizzes.
Oh.
If I asked you what the cosine was, what's cosine? Whatever what? X over r. So your cosine of theta would be x over r. So you would take the x value, which is 5, over the r value, which is the square root of 29. Can I leave it like that?
No, I do it another way, so I think that's why I'm getting confused.
If you do it the other way and it works out for you, that's fine. But if you
draw it.
that's fine. That's fine. If you draw it, that's fine.
I think that's why I was getting
29.
If it's a square root of 3 divided by square root of 29, like that.
You have to multiply.
Okay, you'd still rationalize. And a house times a house just gives you a bigger house. So 29 times 3. This is just an example, guys, algebraically what this would work out. So 29 times 3. This would be the square root of 87 over 29. Because the square root of 29 times the square root of 29, the square roots cancel out.
But the root will not cancel out? The root?
The square root, okay, so 29 times 29 is 841. So you'd have, what this is, when you multiply these two together, is the square root of 841. And the square root of 841 equals 29.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. All right, last thing I'm going to go over. You guys will have a linear speed problem. This was on one of our lessons that we did at the beginning, 5-1, 5-2, 5-3. This formula will be given to you. You guys have to know this. You guys have to know that when you look at a clock and we break it up into 4 pieces, right? One whole circle is 2 pi. So if I break that up into 4 pieces, it's pi over 2. So if I go 1 revolution around, my theta that I would use is the whole circle, which is 2 pi, and the time is 60 seconds. If the question says that the clock went half a revolution, well, seconds-wise, what's half of a minute? 30. And what's half of a circle in radians? If 2 pi is a whole circle, what's half of a circle? 1 pi.
Oh.
If I ask you for half of a circle, guys, you cut a circle in half. If the whole circle is 2 pi, then half of it is 1. If you cut a circle into 4 pieces, this is just pi over 2. If you cut a clock into 4 pieces, how many seconds are in a quarter of those? 15. 60 divided by 4. You guys have to know that. We went over that in one of the lessons. Go back and look at the video. All right?